first VR headset is really the book you first read that connected with you. How do you talk and how do you engage with very young children in a way that's meaningful, that's not just telling them stuff? We hear all the time about children and dreadful attention spans, really awful attention spans, and that child's sad. That child's not happy right now. Maybe that's the problem.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Beyond the Grade. Now, as you know, a recurring theme for us here is how we can all prepare children and young people for the future. And what does that future look like? I don't know about you, but it seems to be changing rapidly in front of my eyes at a pace which was unimaginable even just a few years ago. And I think technology is playing a large role in that. So we thought we'd explore in this episode, what does the future look like from a technology point of view? How is it going to change the way we live, the way we work, the way we use our leisure time? And what does that mean for teachers today and for all of us today as to how we can prepare our children for the future in 2030, in 2050, maybe beyond? Let's have some fun today. Let's have some predictions, some glimpses into what the future might look like. Now, who are we going to do that with? Well, we thought the very best person is a chap called Phil Birchnall. Got a brain the size of a planet, but he's able to articulate some very complex theories and ideas in ways which even I understand. Phil leads the multi-award-winning immersive content team at Discovery Education, developing groundbreaking apps and content used in classrooms around the world. Alongside creating award-winning content, Phil has been an educator and EdTech innovation leader for over 30 years. In fact, he was a teacher for many, many years, managing real-world innovation regionally, nationally, and globally. And in 2022, Phil was named as one of the pioneers of immersive learning. I promise you, you're in for a treat. This is going to be a really interesting discussion, which of course affects all of us, which is what does the future really look like? Enjoy. So Phil, thank you so much for joining us today. I know how busy you are. So we really appreciate it, especially on a Friday. So hopefully we won't keep you long, but we've got a lot to talk about. So why don't we start, just for the benefit of those in the audience that aren't aware of what you do. Perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about your professional journey to date, how you got to here, really.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. It's great to be sitting here opposite you again. Yeah, it's like old times, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah,
it's fantastic.
We do know each other. Yeah,
we do. So,
I mean, we're still speaking.
And we're still speaking, yeah. And you still don't know my journey to date, so I'll have to tell you again. So,
Phil, is it?
Was it Phil? That's right. Yeah. So my background goes beyond education. So, you know, I became a teacher from the army, actually. And my first head teacher thought it'd be great to put a soldier in the nursery. As it was then. And it was probably the biggest challenge of my life. Wow. And really gave me, my eyes were completely opened by this experience. I'd done what I thought was some, really terrifying things, but nothing was quite like facing a bunch of 3.5-year-olds at 8 o'clock in the morning and not knowing what to do. So it was wonderful. It was amazing. And that really got me interested and just completely absorbed into what it is to learn and how we learn. Yeah. And from there, I became a school leader. Right. I was an IT advisor, as we used to call them back in the day. Yeah. And then I transferred into higher education as well. So worked with PhD students, etc., and mentored people. Yeah. And also then through forming different companies, founding companies, and then founding one that was eventually acquired by Discovery Education nearly 7 years ago. Which is amazing. And since then, I've been working on what we call immersive content and immersive education. And that's something that was sparked by that first experience in that classroom in 1992, 91, in that nursery, of just how do you talk and how do you engage with very young children in a way that's meaningful, that's not just telling them stuff. Yeah, and it's not just delivering some knowledge and just opening their minds. And it wasn't about what do you want to know? It was about how can I reach you and how can I meaningfully communicate with you and connect with you? And that's when this spark started firing about what we now call immersive content.
All the time I've known you, you've always been, I think, you've always struck me as always really interested in engagement and investment. And that word we use, botheredness, isn't it? Sometimes we say. So tell us a little bit more about the sort of projects you work on at the moment, and particularly this business of immersive education. Maybe just explain that a bit more.
Yes, it's a really difficult thing, isn't it? Because I think most people, when they hear immersive, probably think we're talking about virtual reality.
Yeah, that's right. I immediately thought headset.
Exactly. And I think most people picture a headset when you say
that's what
it.
I thought.
And quite categorically, we're not talking about that. You and I have discussed this at length many times about our experiences of those immersive moments we've had in the classroom. My first immersive moment was probably when I learnt to modulate my tone of voice to create an atmosphere in the classroom, to understand what it was I was trying to do and how I was trying to get through to them. That's immersion. That's what it's all about. We talk about opening a doorway into the mind, that you have this moment that you can, like, the lights can come on for them, and you've got a few seconds that you can step into that doorway you've just opened with your immersive approach.
So that's what you mean by immersion?
That's exactly what I mean
being
by immersion.
There, being present.
I do. I often give the example of immersion and the green screen in our minds. I view us all as having a little green screen studio in our heads. And the first VR headset is really the book you first read that connected with you. Because that studio fired into being inside your mind. And the characters had a character voice, look, feel that was unique to you. They spoke in a way that was unique to you. The environment that they were in, the story, the way it happened, the narrative, everything about it was a little movie that was running in your head. And that's way more powerful than any virtual reality experience as well. But that's the first real experience I think we all have of immersion, of that thing that I've got to keep on going with that. So with the engagement happened through the immersion, that's the writing, the text. And then that motivation to carry on came from the effect it was having on you, and you had to continue with it.
It's the hook.
So it's learning that the parallels are obvious and large.
That's much more active than I expected. I'd seen it as more of not a passive thing, of course not, but when you have, again, it's back to my idea of the headset, I suppose, really. That's when I see immersive, that you're immersing them in it, and in some ways you're somehow removing the opportunities for them to develop their own imagination and use their senses, but you're not. You're actually amplifying the experience. Yeah,
it's a really good point, actually, about, because we talk about an immersive scale in discovery education all the time, and it's like a VR headset is right at the far end of the immersive scale. It's as immersive as probably technology can give you. That's the height of immersion.
Right.
It's also the height of isolation as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Because you're locked off into a virtual world.
It is.
And it can be very powerful, and done with purpose, it can work really well. But actually what we're talking about is understanding the psychology, the philosophy even, the mechanics of immersion and what happens when you encounter immersive content and immersive environments. And that's where this amplification effect can take place. And by amplification, I mean that, if you've got a child who is like really into something right at that moment, they're going to learn quickly. They're going to remember things.
Because they're present.
Because they're there. They're going to want more of it as well. So in our experience, what we find is that immersive content, it amplifies the speed, the depth, and the quality of the learning. We've got lots of anecdotal evidence of teachers, even last week, telling me that they get through things really quickly. And they've got children who don't like to write, don't like to read, don't like to engage, really wanting to crack on with something because suddenly Egypt is the thing that they're really into.
It's just captured them.
Because it's captured them. And that's what we want to do. You can't do it all the time, but it's understanding those principles of an understanding as a scale is just how far you need to go in order to trigger something meaningful to then take it a bit further.
And all the time you're building and designing this, do you have inclusion in your mind? Because it's a big theme for us on these episodes, is inclusive education.
Those principles I outlined, they're inclusive. They're all about what you understand and what you know and who you are as a teacher, I think.
Yeah.
Then we get to technology. And because what we're using, using the word amplify again, we're using technology to amplify the immersion effect. So we're using augmented reality, we're using game-based learning, we're using all kinds of techniques. That all requires technology. And that's where you can get barriers as well, both in terms of affordability, but also in terms of actual use and whatever challenges an individual pupil has in the classroom in order for them to access the content. So we've got to think very carefully about that. And again, it's all about balance. It's all about trying to use principles, again, universal design for learning, applying those principles around engagement and agency and everything else. If we keep those in mind, then we can help that process along. And then just from a pure accessibility point of view, just make sure that when the technology is involved, we're mindful, first of all, of regulations, because rightfully there are laws that govern this around the world. And that we're thinking of like, how can pupils, how can teachers access this and make it meaningful? So we've got to think of all those things. Could be physical control. It could be the way it looks. It could be the way you communicate. It could be translations, localization. All of these things make sure that we're creating an environment where everyone can have some form of in to the immersive experience. That's the key
bit for us, isn't it? I tell you what, you can take Mr. Birchnall out of school, but you can't take the teacher out of Mr. Birchnall, can you? You still speak as a teacher.
Well, really I think it's. I still talk of teaching as the noble profession because it is.
You always have done.
It is.
You always have done.
It is the noble profession, isn't it? It's something that we love.
It really is. So we might have already preempted these questions now. I don't know.
Okay,
Shall we find out? Let's have a look. Yes, we probably have. You often talk about using technology. I said tech then because I wanted to sound cool.
Yeah.
Technology.
Yeah.
To enhance learning experiences. What do you mean by this? I tell you what would be interesting though. Could you share some examples of really good practice in this regard that you've seen in schools?
I can. I've always had
and
you
the
down.
Impact.
I mean, I've always had you down as a tech bro anyway. In the making. So let's talk about tech.
Yeah, I can turn my phone on.
Tech in the classroom.
This morning, I've literally just had a workshop on how to use Insta. So there you go.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
Anyway.
I look forward to following you.
I should have written it down because I've forgotten it already. Yeah.
In the classroom, it's really interesting that every classroom you walk into, and we've discussed this before as well, that the view of a classroom to me that's really useful in what I do is viewing it as a learning studio. I think studio is, it's like, I make the argument that when you're talking about immersive content, the journey into immersive content starts when you first encounter it. When you first encounter it as a teacher, it's normally a description of something.
Yeah.
So if you say it's this is a description of the Great Pyramid and everything, or if you describe it as an adventure or something, or a mission or a challenge or something like that. So the language is really important. Studio is quite evocative as well. And children love that we're going into the studio today, and teachers like to think of that as well because they perform, they conduct, they do all of these things in the classroom.
We say in the director's chair, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, you're in that. But in a modern classroom, you're surrounded by technology. The instant you walk in, you've got an amazing display probably. You might have some sound. You've got yourself. You've got lighting. You've got all of these different things. It's like you don't need to think, I need several £1,000s worth of iPads, Chromebooks or something to start understanding and using the principles of immersion. You might have something on your phone, and there's all kinds of issues around that about using it in an education environment. But you have access to technology, infrastructure, you're connected, that you can actually start to deploy these principles of immersion.
That's really interesting way to begin, actually. So from I don't know if it's the right phrase, a low-tech point of view, you can still consider and start employing the principles of immersive education.
Yeah, and I actually do call it low-tech, high-tech.
Right.
It's like do high-tech things with low-tech. You don't need to have the latest, greatest. If you've got an old projector in a classroom, you can probably do something really high-tech with that. You can probably redeploy that old thing that's in the stock cupboard and use it in the hall or something and create an immersive environment of your own. With no money whatsoever. It's what do you want to do with it? Where do you access the content to do that? So it is that's why I'm a bit of a bore actually around principles. It's like people think my world and my work is all about tech. It's all about the hardware. That comes into it because we use that as an amplifier. But really what I'm about is the principles, the understanding of what immersive content is, what it is to teach, and what's happening in the minds of students and also teachers. Let's not forget, we should engage teachers.
Yeah,
it's not just about the pupils.
So let's get on to AI. It's a hot topic right now, I should say, isn't it? So of all the people that I know I would have said you are the best person to speak to about kind of a little glimpse into the future, really. But before we start to get the crystal ball out and to make some interesting predictions, can you just sort of, at the moment, lay out some of the opportunities in 2026 for AI and some of the risks associated with it?
I get asked this a lot.
I bet you do, yeah.
Both professionally and in other circumstances. It's so difficult to answer this question.
It is, isn't it?
Because I can pursue AI tools to use in certain elements of my work that have a lifespan of days, weeks, months, if I'm lucky.
Really?
Before I'm looking back and thinking, oh, that was amazing 2 weeks ago. I want to use this one now because that's more amazing. Such is the pace of development. And so what is it going to, what have we got coming forward?
Yeah.
I think we're seeing huge leaps and bounds in what generative AI is. It's moving from that thing that we were bombarded with on LinkedIn when it first came out, and people doing videos of themselves changing their face and being somewhere else. And it's like, hey, that's really good. And it was cool. It was really cool. But we're moving away from that. This is really, really cool. So actually, this is seriously useful. And we're seeing the tools maturing. So, for example, something like Suno.ai, which is music creation.
I've come across this.
You will have heard it. You will have heard it
demonstrated.
For 12 months maybe. And you've heard songs and it's like, oh, that's really cool. And they don't end very well. And in the middle, they go distorted and everything. That's all changed now. That's changed. So the latest iteration of Suno.ai is, and other platforms are available, is amazing in that it's a digital audio workstation, a DAW. And anyone that works in music editing and production knows what a DAW is. It's that thing that they sit with all the tracks all laid out and everything, called stems and things. All of that is now there. You can play your own instruments into it. You can spark a song off from that. You can perform over the top of it. You can lead the performance or you can follow the performance. And the output is astonishing. So that now has gone from being a novelty into a genuinely productive tool that I think most people, particularly small studios, are going to pounce on. We always talk about technology and how it democratizes things. I think this is part of the democratization of content creation. That's very threatening. It's also very empowering, depending on who you are.
And the personalization bit as well.
Excuse me.
The personalization. I was lucky enough to get to an AI conference early last year, and in Leicester somewhere. And the chap who was delivering it, God, he was inspired. He has two boys, and one of them is in year 5, and he's really struggling with maths, with numbers, really struggling, particularly times tables. But he's absolutely, completely mad about angling. But he loves to go fishing with his dad. It's his favourite thing. And from a music point of view, he loves rap music. So they asked Suno, and I'm pretty sure that it is Suno, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure in the earlier iteration, they asked Suno.ai to create a rap song in which the lyrics were about fishing and times tables. And they put it all in.
Of course.
And then they played it and we all sang along. And I tell you what, it was extraordinary. Yeah. And he said, my son is now completely hooked. Oh, pardon the pun.
Well done.
Completely hooked. Yeah. So in a way of raising the appeal and the engagement and personalization bit, it's like catnip. It's extraordinary. Have I understood that correctly? Was it Suno.ai
that sounds exactly right. Yeah. And I said that is amazing. But that you see those experiences and those stories of how it's had impact are also layered against the perceived threat of that as well. And
so talk me through the risks.
Well,
and the
well, first of all, there are legal risks. That it has to be upfront. Right. We have to talk about that because it's fast. And I work in an environment where we have to be very careful. Firstly, protecting our own intellectual property, our own IP, and also that we're not infringing inadvertently on other people's intellectual property. So we're not stealing their tune, or we're not stealing their image, or we're not stealing their words, or whatever it is that generative AI is spitting out. That was very prevalent in things like Midjourney when it first came around, first iterations of image generation AI, which is remarkable in what it can do. But I can ask it to give me an illustration in the style of whoever or whatever I want it to be, and it will produce it, and it will be astonishingly good. Is that right? I'm not so sure. The thing is that as someone who does create artwork, I've been doing that for years anyway. But not to steal the things. It's just I've been inspired by.
Yeah.
So was that thing I did in AI influenced by, or am I stealing that person's approach work?
True.
So there's so many issues that need to be solved and to be worked out, and I don't know if they can be. So that's a challenge as well, because the pace is so fast, and you've got companies, large production houses that are now folding in behind this and remembering what happened when MP3s came about. And rather than seeing it as like, we're going to stand here on the shore, we're going to stick our hand out and we're going to stop it, they're going, no, let's move with this now. Let's work alongside this. So some of the large production companies are actually working and folding Midjourney and other platforms into their workflows now, in their production workflows.
So I'll put you on the spot here, but I feel I could. Could you lay out for us maybe just a few examples of how teachers today in the coming term could use AI to personalize their learning? Because that is the theme for us, actually, this idea of tailored teaching and customization, whether that's the right word in this context or not, personalizing the learning. Are there ways in which they could use AI or other forms of tech to really personalize what they're doing so everybody gets it?
Yeah, there are lots of ways it can be done, and there are lots of ways that are surface ways. So you can fire up your favorite platform, your favorite large language learning model, whatever it is, and you could say, "Hey, can you give me a lesson plan?" So you can do that. Teachers will do that, and why not? That's time is precious, so that's really good. So you can be doing that. That's been going on for some time.
It has, yeah.
It will be going on in the background, whether leaders know it's going on or not. It is going on, and the children are also doing it as well. Of course, let's not forget that. But then they can perhaps level up what's missing for them personally in their skill gap and how they create lesson materials.
Okay. Yep.
So if a teacher says, I can't draw, well, now actually you can get that thing to go and do the drawing. If you want to have some music while the children walk into assembly, get some music to walk into assembly and make it really, really relevant.
Yep.
It's like put those little things in that actually lift what it is you're doing. And I think that's kind of the surface level. That's what's going to happen. The next level is having a relationship with your AI.
Right.
Which sounds a bit crazy.
So this is Philip Pullman's demon, isn't it?
This is Philip.
This is the butterfly.
You literally
is that what you were going to say? Sorry.
Took the words out of my mouth. I was literally about to say, as if you've got a demon.
Right.
It's true. It's like, but then, so your AI, get to know it. Let your AI get to know you. Build a relationship with it. Let it know.
What do you mean by that?
So let it know you're a constructivist, a social constructivist. Let it know the works that interest you. Let it know all about the proximal zone of development. Let it know all about who was the drama teacher. Who was the drama teacher that we both revered? Forgotten her name. Yes,
it'll come to me.
Her. Yeah. Tell her all about her. Tell her about all these things. Tell her what really excites you and what you want to achieve, and you'd be amazed what comes out the other end. Because then you've got a demon. You've got someone that understands you and understands what you're trying.
How do you do that? You literally are just writing instructions, guardrails sort of thing.
Talk to it. Don't write it. Talk to it. Talk to it. Develop a. If you're on one of the largest ones, I don't know if we can be talking about
Dorothy Heathcote.
Dorothy Heathcote. Thank you. It was driving me nuts in the background.
I was listening.
Dorothy.
I was just in my head.
I love it. I'm just pleased you came up with Dorothy Heathcote. Yeah. So use, if you're onto ChatGPT, set aside a part of ChatGPT that's just all about this. Yeah, you can do all those other things.
But can you do that privately? You can't, can you? It's the Wild West. People describe it as the Wild West.
They're doing that. This is a really interesting thing. I get challenged on this a lot. That somehow, say for example, that I've got a voiceover I want to do, and I've got my script, which is my intellectual property, and I put my intellectual property into the platform I'm going to use to give me a voiceover for it. That somehow someone anywhere in the world is going to get my script back. That's just nonsense.
Is it? Is it nonsense?
Yeah.
But how have you protected it then?
Well, it's like if I gave you a thimble full of water and asked you to drop it in the ocean, challenge you to can now get that thimble full of water back, please.
That's a good analogy.
You're not going to do it.
You're not going to find it.
You cannot do it. And also, that's not how it works anyway. So when we're training and we're doing about things, there are serious issues around training. There are serious corporate issues that need to be resolved around your data being used for training. I'm not being flippant about it, but I think we've got to separate out some of the myth and the hype around some of the reality. So one of the realities is that, like, it is here. You know, no, everyone says it's here to stay. It's not going away. So, you know, apart from the fact is like, you know, get to know it now before it turns on you. No, I mean, it's before it kills you.
Do you remember I'm your friend?
Yeah,
I'm just letting you know.
Remember everything we talked about and everything we've been through together. So that there, you know, it's like, well, no, the more it knows about who you are, the better it can respond to you. And the better it can fit what it is you're about and who you are as a person.
And it can, if you're talking about also then the next extension for me is teaching it about your students.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then it will remember the stuff that, with the greatest respect, we may not.
That's right. We're not talking about identifying students and talking to them.
I can remember the name.
Yeah.
I don't mean that.
well, you're doing well. No,
but you know what I mean? It'll store all that information about each child.
It will store that information about the challenges you're facing with a class generically.
That's what I mean.
We don't put any data in there. We don't talk about individuals.
No.
But we talk about these are my challenges right now. This is how I teach. These are the things I believe in. This is who I am. This is what interests me. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not so good at. And it knows that over time. It's quite interesting what comes out the other end. It's quite surprising.
So each teacher will have an artificial, I won't say teaching assistant because I'm not suggesting they won't have teaching assistants because we do, but of course we do. But are you suggesting each teacher would have a demon?
I think you can. I think you can have the equivalent. I think you can have the equivalent of that now to some extent.
Can't you really?
Yeah, you can. And wow, there's so many ways of approaching this. Creepy, scary, amazing, exciting, all of those things at once, and silly. There's lots of ways we could approach this. But I think, personally, it's like, well, here it is. How am I going to get the best out of it? You know, how
You've always been like that, though. You've always been that sort of glass half full.
Yeah.
We're bombarded, are we not, by these sort of dystopian, visions of a sort of post-apocalyptic sort of. But you've not been like that when I've spoken to you before about the future. So maybe let's get into that now, if you don't mind. So looking ahead then to a digital future, let's just throttle just to 2030. Can you describe? So those children who are graduating in 2030, let's look at those now. What will they be seeing? And then I'd love to have a sneaky peek into what you think graduates in 2050 will be facing and using. And should we worry? Should we be excited?
Yeah, I am an eternal optimist.
But
also I'm a realist as well. And so let's not forget the dystopia that does exist, that AI plays its part in. But there are other things around that as well. It's not for this topic, but I'm a realist too, but I'm a massive optimist. 2030 is really interesting because it's an epoch away in AI terms.
Just, isn't it?
It really is.
4 years away.
Yeah, it is. But it's, wow, what will it be like? I was reading recently how AI is now writing AI. So, so we're in that kind of like the acceleration is like suddenly all bets are off as to what it's going to look like.
So AI is working on developing AI.
Yes.
Further.
Yeah. So, it's in charge of its own destiny in a way.
With some guardrails.
I'm assuming so. I hope so. Otherwise, that famous scenario of how do you solve the problems of the world is, well, actually, if humans don't exist, so let's switch the humans off. Right. The world will be a better place without it. So there are terrifying scenarios.
Moving on.
From science fiction. So 2030, I think, and I've brought a document along with me.
It's always nice when people bring stuff.
In 2001, I used to work as part of Manchester City Council. We used to work with British Telecom with a unit they had, which was all about futurology. It was all about seeing what would happen in the future. In 2025 and 2030. So in 2001, we were looking. In 2000, we were looking forward 25 to 30 years, and I brought it along with me with AI, and it's utter nonsense. So,
is it?
No, it's not all utter nonsense. Actually, 80% of it is really nonsense and hilarious, but 5% of it is scarily on the money as well. So I think we've got to. We've always got these warnings.
This is the Gene Roddenberry Brit again, isn't it?
This is the warning from the past as well.
Yeah.
It's just like we've got to remember that our frail human brains, our feeble human minds, can only imagine so much what we do because we don't take into account every socio-political, economic thing that's going to happen between
when
now
we're making that consideration.
2030. So I can talk to you. My instincts are to say, I think it's going to be about wearable technology. It's going to be about the interface between wearable technology and AI. It's going to be about that you're not going to be interfacing through devices so much as your eyes, sensing, everything else. I think that's going. I do.
Big theme for us on all of these episodes is a core legal requirement. I keep on banging on about it. The requirement of schools is essentially, certainly the school's curriculum, is to prepare young people for the experiences, responsibilities, and opportunities of later life, prepping for adulthood.
Yes,
and if we move on from the Forster's Act. And we look at it's more than, and we know it's more than the three. Forster's Act was a very benevolent thing. Don't get me. We've been all through
exactly. We agree
benevolent
on that.
thing to do.
Yes, it was.
But we know it's more than the 3 R's.
Yes.
So if we're moving on from that, if we're preparing for adulthood, we're preparing them for the future. What can we do right now if we're able to have that sort of short glimpse into 2030, 2050, who knows? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying. What can we be doing now to prepare the children for their digital futures?
I think what we've been discussing and that just having that understanding of the nature of change, the speed of change.
Okay, so how to embrace...
Yeah, the reality of change, the reality that it's here, that it is exponential by nature. The pace of change is growing and growing. So when we look to 2030, we're looking forward a phenomenal leap ahead, really, as to what's happening. But we've been here before as well, so we've got to temper it with, like I say, the human view, the utopian view that people like me, because I'm always far too optimistic probably about things. You've got to temper that with some reality as well.
Didn't you say that when you were sat around the table in 2001,
yeah,
you were literally planning for what a life of leisure,
yeah,
the Eloy or the Morlocks, I can't remember which.
Yes,
it's
that's
quite
right.
H.G. Wellsian, isn't it?
It is.
You were planning for a life of leisure. Do you hold that view now for the future, that it's going to be more about leisure than work?
I temper that view with that experience of in the 90s. Actually, it was in the early 90s, working with the Manchester City Council, being part of it, and sitting with the Chief Education Officer in his office and talking about a future where we convened a committee that was discussing what life was going to be like in Greater Manchester when the internet came and none of us were working anymore because the internet was doing everything. So we didn't even call it the internet. We called it telematics at the time.
Right. This is fascinating. So you gathered the great and the good around a table with a specific remit,
a specific purpose to discuss how we were going to have a leisure-based economy. What does that mean, a leisure-based economy? What would that mean to people? How would it affect, in the same way that we were going to have a paperless society, like we weren't ever going to use paper anymore. It was nonsense.
I like a notebook.
Quadrupled, didn't it? And it's just like, it's the same thing. It's just like the utopian view of that and the positive view of it was such that it was like, this is going to change everything. The world is going to be different. That is true. It's just different in a different way.
So why is it 20, 25 years later from when you had that discussion, I think I've got even less leisure time than I had before?
Precisely. Precisely.
Everything, unless I missed a memo, I didn't realise that somebody's suddenly...
I think that's it. That's the big lesson.
Somebody's sped up the earth. It seems to be moving a little bit more quickly than it was before.
Yeah, that's the lesson.
Because we're getting older, I don't know. But
it had all the potential we identified, but we didn't, because of our view of the world, because we were looking at it through rose-tinted spectacles, we took out all the things that, the consequences that were going to be really difficult for us to manage, like being constantly in touch. Just to start with.
That's one of the things that sped it up.
That's what you're saying.
The need for immediate responses.
Exactly. So now, we've got to remember those experiences and think, well, okay, what's the reality? How can we, and what's really interesting, of course, is AI is helping us develop a world view of this.
Which you didn't have those
because it's based on the experiences of the past as well.
That's the difference.
So it's quite meta, really. We've got AI telling us about what AI is going to be like and what the world is going to be like. So yeah, we do have to think about it. The world that they're going to walk into, it's changing already. I think the path view. You have the path. You find a subject you're interested in. You go and study it some more. You graduate at some level, get a job, and you progress. That's the pathway, isn't it? The old traditional pathway.
It is, isn't it?
And
the more you work, the more successful you'll be.
It's going to be. There's a ladder involved somewhere.
Stay late at the office.
You've got to climb that ladder. You've got to put your dreams on hold. You've got to do all these things, get a mortgage, and lots of good stuff in there as well, amazing things in there as well.
But it was a myth.
But it's this linear path. And that's already changed to a large extent, I think. But I think that, an AI-enabled world is, I have mentioned this to you before, is going to be about people curating their own lives, about choosing and selecting things that they do. And
you said that.
Yeah.
So can you you're about to expand on what you mean by curating?
Yeah. So rather than me saying, this is the thing I do, I am an accountant, I am a nurse, I am a whatever. It's like, no, I'm me. I like these different things. And there could be income streams, I think, in the future that are derived from multiple sources. And I think our view of income is going to be slightly changed as well. I think income might not be cash. It might be different ways that you benefit from activity. There's a lot there, but I think there will be lots and lots of areas. And I think we, factoring in how long people will live and all of that's in doubt with the way things are going as well. But, it's like that. How are you going to select the things that you're involved in, the things that interest you? Because you're going to be curating experiences and, and you're going to be not so much walking a path as choosing a whole area to inhabit.
But do you think AI technology will eventually, I'm just so fascinated by that conversation you had around the table 25 years ago. Do you think we will reach the stage where we will actually have more leisure time simply because so much of the work is being done by tech?
I want to say yes, but I think the answer is probably no.
So we'll still all be
I think we'll
with
be
a purpose.
I think we'll be differently engaged. And I think our perception of what that means will be different to how it is now. Again, Gene Roddenberry, Star Trek. It's like all people did there. It's like this wonderful environment where actually your whole purpose is illumination and fulfillment.
And eating grapes.
And no one pays any money.
Says G. Wells again.
And everything. It's
so
like,
that's not your...
I just don't think it can be. I want it to be. I desperately want it to be. It's like it's the 21st century, and I still don't have a hoverboard, and I still don't have a silver jumpsuit. And I was bitterly disappointed when the millennium came, and I didn't have those things. Because when in the 70s, I thought I would.
And we're not all flying around over
We're not all
cities,
flying
are we?
around.
We're
exactly. So
still stuck in traffic.
So in 2030, look at the world now. Look at the geopolitical situation. Look at the challenges we face. And it's like, you can't separate those things. And I think we did back then.
So beyond the grade,
yep,
we're both teachers. We're both very, very interested, not only in, including, of course, the academic curriculum. We're very interested in the hidden curriculum, the invisible curriculum, all the things we've called it. So let's try and just sort of list some of the human qualities that you think will still be very much in demand, that we can actually instill. The first one you said was the ability to embrace change. Yep. Da Vinci sfamata. Do you remember we talked about sfamata,
absolutely.
this idea of the being almost content in chaos. So the willingness to embrace change.
Yeah. Curiosity.
It's
one of the driving emotions, isn't it?
And that will still be.
I think it has to be
satisfied and necessary.
Yeah, I think it will be more satisfied. And you will feel more curious and compelled to your curiosity because you can achieve more because of what will be enabling you to do that.
So it'll take you further.
Yeah, so you won't have the limitations.
And the menu's longer, surely.
Yeah, you won't feel limited by your own lack of ability to do something.
Okay, so we've got the ability to embrace change and thrive in it. Curiosity. What else?
I think a level of what's the right way to put this? But a kind of a self-awareness, I think.
Okay.
But this demon idea, this thing that you're not alone. Actually you're operating and living in a world that suits the way you take information in. We hear all the time about children and dreadful attention spans, really awful attention spans and everything.
Honestly, I've heard that so many times.
And I get quite worn out by it, but I think in the world we're discussing here as well, we'll understand that actually, no, they're just not having to dial back that 20-minute video they were forced to watch to get the point that was made in the first 20 seconds and everything, because at 20 seconds into what they're looking at, they're actually acting and they're doing something and making a decision about it. And I think the world that they'll inhabit will be more immediate. So I think an immediacy.
So and luckily they are of their time.
Yeah.
I had lots of discussions when I was in schools about how, we would have liked all of the students to have had an attention span of at least 30, 40 minutes.
Yep.
But in reality, it was about 5 or 6 minutes.
Yep.
But I said, no, actually, it is 30 minutes.
It is.
It's just done concurrently.
It's just done
on
exactly.
5 different things. Mathematically.
Completely.
So there's 5 different things,
Completely
6 minutes on
agree with
each,
that.
but it's done at the same time.
Yeah. And if
Dare I say multitasking, but it is, isn't it?
Exactly. And if you do it right, it's that attention span can last a lifetime, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like it's what you spark. Yeah. It's not a linear thing. It's not about your application to a task. It's way more than that.
But then that calls into another question about time in that case, how we perceive time. Because at the moment we do perceive time, obviously in this linear fashion, and I'm engaging in this particular task, and when I get to the end of that, I will then do that task.
Yeah.
I suppose we're saying that many, not all, but many of the students that I've taught are actually, and certainly my own kids are certainly perfectly able to engage with various different tasks at the same time.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what we were talking about now.
Yeah.
That's my attention span. Curiosity, ability to any others that
immediacy. I think that's important, that the immediacy of their world and how they're able to act on things very quickly. So, it's like I've seen something, I've heard something, this has been growing for a long time, and now I can do something about it straight away. Think back to our days of like, I'm interested in something, I need to go and find some time to go to the library, I need to go and look it up.
I'll subscribe to that magazine and wait for the next one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm going to send a letter. It's like that immediacy is growing, and that's exponential.
And we need to prepare them for that.
Because it's not that they can just it's not they can access things quickly. They can do things quickly about it as well. So if it's like you hear a song, if they'll go onto Suno and they'll make their own version of it immediately, and everything. Their engagement as well. I don't mean engagement in the way we talk about it in the classroom, but their relationship with their peers is very different too. So I see a world where, that we've discussed this in the past as well, the criticism of the child walking down the street like this with the head in the eye, and the parents going, I wish they'd get the hands, but actually they're not walking down the street ignorant of their parents. They're walking down the street with maybe 12 to 20 of their friends with them. So they're engaged in a relationship constantly. So there's like 20 people walking down the street. It just looks like there's 3 physical bodies walking down the street. So it's like that connectedness and everything, which is only going to grow with AI. I see, sorry, we're jumping around a little bit, but I see AI friends being part of that friend group as well. We talked about the demon idea. Well, they'll have that as well. So why won't their friends be part? Why won't their AI demons be part of the friend group as well? And everything. So I think there's a broadening out of things.
So connectedness, I can see that.
Connectedness.
I'd like to think, for many, many years, you and I know this, we were encouraging independence, independent thinking. And all the time, I think, well, not all the time at the time, but certainly looking back, we should have been focusing more on interdependence, I think. Do you think students will become more interdependent or more independent?
I think that's a really good point, actually. And you're right to call it out. We have always majored on some of these things, haven't we? When you look back,
it's all about independence, but it wasn't.
Actually, it wasn't really about that, was it?
No.
Because we talk about that and then we'd obsess about collaboration.
In
the same breath, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think interdependence is really important going forward, because the threats are there as well. Got to remember the threats is that that AI demon might actually come from a company that produces it with a very hostile and toxic worldview that you don't really want to be involved in, but you might find yourself in that thing. So the broader and more all-encompassing your community is, the better.
But even right now, can we be certain that when we put in questions to AI, this is such a primitive question, deliberately really, can we be absolutely certain that whichever platform we're asking has not yet developed its own political agenda, its own, do you know what I mean?
That exists, and it's probably not right to go into it right here, but you just look at the news today and look at the news of the last month, and you will see the politically influenced and politically leaning platforms that do exist.
So discernment.
So discernment is huge. Critical thinking, things that have always been there, but in a much more critical way. It's not critical thinking as in how do you figure this out. It's critical thinking is just like what's going to happen to you. I think that's huge.
So this has been fascinating, and I think we should continue when we've finished recording. See if we can solve. I'm sure we can't, but we could explore some of the problems that we need to solve. But at the end, towards the end of every episode, we like to fire questions at our special guests. And it's the same questions that we ask everybody.
Okay.
We're not going to sort and rank your answers alongside everyone else's answers, by the way. So what motivates Mr. Birchnall to get out of bed in the morning?
Creativity. So really,
it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I know it's a bit whatever, but honestly,
making new stuff,
making things, an AI means that instead of just managing people, I get to carry on making things as well.
You're still playing, aren't you?
Still playing.
Do you think playfulness is something that we are in danger of losing in school or not?
Yeah.
It's kind of reserved for playtime.
I work with a lot of different countries and lots of different education systems, and there is resistance to the notion of play consistently now. And not from us, we push it forward as a company, but play is really important.
I've noticed over a very short span of time in schools, play becomes learning and learning becomes working, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you can measure that in about 3 or 4 years between reception and the early key stage 2. You move from playing to learning to working.
Yeah, and
nobody deliberately says that.
No, they don't.
It
kind of almost feels like it's a progression that has to happen, and it's a shame because risk is in there as well. So playing and risk and managing risk and learning from it and everything is all part of the play thing. And
so maybe that ability to manage risk is another one of our beyond the grade skills that we need to be putting in there.
Yeah,
so creativity gets you out of bed.
It does.
Playing with stuff, making stuff.
Playing with stuff, making stuff. The endless pull of and anxiety that I feel that I haven't got enough time to do the things I want to do, to make the things I want to make, which is both very, very pleasurable and very frustrating, but it's a wonderful thing.
So do you feel you're in a rush?
Yeah, I do. I feel I'm in a rush to do everything. I want to do everything everywhere all at once.
How do you switch off? Apart from the Negronis.
Pints of Negronis. No. Yeah. I don't really want to switch off.
Because you enjoy what you do.
I enjoy what I do. I'm really, really lucky.
I find that. People say you must switch off.
People tell me to switch off.
I enjoy what I'm doing.
And I just think, do you mind? I'm really enjoying myself and everything. I'm just fascinated by it all. So I want to just keep on going. So I switch off at the same time as I switch on.
So let's throttle back to the 10-year-old Phil, who I'd love to have met, actually. I'm not sure he's changed very much, actually. But so the 10-year-old Phil, what did he want to do when he was big?
I had no idea, absolutely no idea, and I still don't have an idea what I want to be when I grow up. No clue. I think it's important not to have that really. Yeah. Well, I say it's important.
Some people know, and they see it through, and they're fulfilled.
Do. And I think it's a product of how your journey through to where you want to be. I remember a head teacher that I worked for. I was IT director of a college. And he said, you've had a fascinating journey to where you want to be and everything. He said, would you do a talk with the kids? I said, yeah, of course we'll stand up. Us, we'll always stand up and do a talk, won't we? And then the day before the talk, he pulled it. He said, I've just looked at it. He said, your journey to this point had absolutely nothing to do with academic achievement. I don't want the kids to get that idea that you don't have to do any work at school.
Oh, no.
And everything. So he pulled the talk.
Oh, no.
It's the same head teacher who fell asleep in my interview, actually, when I was interviewed for the job, which was hilarious.
Lucky
Still got the job.
Lucky. Yeah. Oh. Because you shattered the myth that you need to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think
score highly in school.
It's like we've all got the journey thing going on and everything, and mine was very. It was different to some of the other routes into education.
But did you find at some period during school that there was somebody who enabled you to find your element, to find your thing? Do you think they got you?
I always say that the person who got me was my first head teacher as a teacher.
Oh, right. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
When you were actually teaching.
Yeah. I was told I was going to be a failure at school.
Right.
By teachers.
Right.
So I'm not, cut up about that and everything. Probably was on my way to being a failure. So, I think there's lots of ways school can affect you. And I think we've all got this thing where we should have the Mr. Chips in the background. That's the person that changed everything for you. But my first head teacher, a lady called Patricia Lee in Manchester, stone's throw from here, Claremont Infant School in Moss Side, absolutely changed my life for the best and was one of the most powerful influences on my life. And I still think about her and what she gave me and the generosity of her support.
What did she give
and
you?
Her insight. She let me loose.
Right.
She just let me loose.
Trusted you?
She trusted me and everything, and we talked, and she was from that generation of teachers that had been like gone through it in the 60s and 70s and had that amazing view. She was a Dorothy Heath coach.
We've come back to Dorothy, haven't we?
She was that person, you know. She was that thing, and she was an amazing person, and it was an amazing school. I was very lucky. So
I don't know whether there would be any for you, but what's one lesson from your own school that you would still use today? Are there any that you would still say were good lessons you learned?
Yeah, I think the good lesson I learned was, and this is in retrospect, you know, going back is like, you know, be who you are. It's a really cliched thing.
No, we talk about it a lot on this. Be your authentic self.
You know, be your authentic self. Yeah. And, you know, lots of people give advice. It's just like, you can do anything if you put your mind to it and everything. Yeah, but if you put your mind to it and you were born in the right family and you were born in the right country, there's a few other things. But actually, it's like understanding, not just be true to your own self, but be true to your own location. And I don't mean geographically, I mean your context, like where you are, what the challenge is around you. And that will help you through those times when somebody tells you you're not going to amount to anything. Then
good life lesson. And we need to create that safe environment where the children can be their unapologetic, authentic selves in school. Yes. That's true inclusion, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Sense of belonging. Yeah. So, oh gosh, this is a tough one. We ask everybody this. And what do you think is the most important life skill that schools could teach? Maybe we just landed on it.
Yeah, I think there is that. But actually, you know, you ask me what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's curiosity, you know, creativity. It's curiosity. And I think if you're in education, whether as a child, a teacher, or whatever, if you've got that curiosity and it has been instilled in you, then I think that stays with you forever. Because you're endlessly pursuing things in all different ways. And when you're curious, you build up the skills to progress and get those things as well. So it kind of layers all these different things on top of you. And I think curiosity sits at the bottom of everything for me.
Lovely, lovely place to finish. What a fascinating discussion. And we need to continue this one, actually. We need you back for a part 2 because I feel with you, we've only just scratched the surface, to be fair.
Let's do it.
But there was plenty in there. And we've certainly given, hopefully, people watching this lots of thoughts, lots of ideas. Loved it. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
See you again next time.
Thanks, Andrew.